special case study presentation from our friends at Calrec, DiGiCo, Group 1 Limited. You know a lot about what Pac-12 Networks does on a daily basis. At-home production is a huge trend in the industry at the network level. It's really been happening at the college level for quite some time when you think about what a centralized control room really is. So to kind of talk through on the audio side how a lot of that stuff gets happening, let's bring up to the stage from Group 1 Limited, Chris Fichera, and from Pac-12 Networks, Glenn Stilwell.
I can.
Okay, good. I'm Chris Fichera with Group 1. I'm here today to present, discuss, and answer a few questions regarding the Pac-12 networks. Let me introduce you to Glenn Stilwell. Glenn is the operations manager at Pac-12. Hello, Glenn.
Chris, how are you?
Very well. Glenn, let's start with a general overview, scope and size of what Pac-12 does.
The scope is pretty big. Size is pretty big. Pac-12 Networks, a nonprofit owned by the Pac-12 Conference. We produce 850 live events or games over a 9-month period, plus approximately 1,500 shoulder programming events, our pregame, postgame, halftimes, those sorts of things. And in our at-home production model, it equals out to about 460 events or thereabouts. It goes up and down every year.
It's a lot?
It is a lot. It's a lot. There's 5 control rooms, 4 studios, all in San Francisco.
Big.
It is huge.
It's big. Next slide. Wow. We're going to get into the weeds, people. As you can see, was this actually drawn on a napkin at a bar?
This is like how the Enron guys duped the energy system.
I like to stick people. I think that really works. It's really good.
I draw stick people.
Yes. So basically this represents a concept before being integrated into the infrastructure at the facility.
Right. We wanted to take it to the next level a little bit and do a 2.0 version.
Right.
And this last season we started taking all of our football pre- and post-game shows on the road. So this was a kind of a design to use our existing system, add some extras, and do it all without a truck. So there's no Sprinter van, there's no truck involved in the studio design.
Completely remote.
Completely remote.
Right. Cool. Next slide. Okay. Tell us how you do it.
Well, from the audio guy's perspective, you think you're the most important guy on the show. Really, it's the transmission guys. So without the transmission network attached to the schools,
right.
You really can't do anything.
Right.
So once you establish the transmission, everything's downhill from there.
Right. Next slide.
So our first set of transmission boxes were called MIOs. I actually forget what it stood for. Multicam in out. Okay, this is the Mama Mio. And we're in Silicon Valley sort of, so we're very creative in a lot of ways. All of our boxes are named,
Right.
And they're named after Batman villainesses.
Perfect.
All the printers in the office are named after Simpsons characters.
Even better.
So this is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn contains all of your power in your network. It contains your tally system. It has some IFB voltage, and it has some communications. The most important thing for the audio side is it has its remote DSP.
Right.
So this was kind of developed back in 2013, where there weren't really any types of developments for this. There was, News did it. Big Ten was kind of the first one to do it in our world. But we took some off-the-shelf audio DSPs that use in bars to distribute to speakers. We wrote a custom piece of software that could talk to those, and developed a basic, what we call multicam audio system.
Right.
the big secret sauce in doing at-home productions is the IFB. A lot of people didn't figure out how to do it, or they knew how to do it or didn't do it, and so that's kind of where we tip the scale a little bit. And it's been working now since 2013, and it does 400 plus shows every year.
Cool. Next slide.
So in our enhancement for the studio show, we kind of wanted to take it to the next level. So we have RP1 that we built up as a complete system outside of the network transmission, which is JPEG 2000 embedded SDI. I get to choose the names because I designed it, and I'm a big King of the Hill fan, so meet Hank and Bobby.
Okay, Hank and Bobby.
So Hank's the modular I/O rack with the embedding, the analog audio in and out.
Right.
It has the de-embedding, which is critical in some things where it needs to be flexible. We need to send things back to the site as opposed to get things from the site. And we built a simple XLR I/O for the ins and the outs.
Okay.
And it all uses the Calrec Assist software.
Right. Next slide.
So once it gets back home, there are essentially the receivers. So you take the Nevion TVG 450s on the receive side. They bring in the SDI video with the audio embedded, and that basically goes right into our Evertz router.
Okay.
The Evertz router then has all of our Calrecs in-house are all MADI streamed. So they show up in the router as a MADI stream. It's really simple. It's reliable, and I love it. It's really great.
Cool. Next slide.
So there's our EQX that converts over to MADI. And basically, from a operational standpoint, we already have predefined layouts for every event.
Right.
So if you're doing soccer, you're going to get X number of audio inputs.
Right.
And we're also a native 5.1 house, so we produce everything in surround sound.
Impressive.
So we then bring 16 channels of audio back from the venue, whether it be in Oregon or Arizona.
Right.
And we bring the stems in, we mix that down, and away we go.
Okay. Next slide. Finally make it to the
So
studio.
it finally makes it to the studio. We have a couple Artemises. This is PCR3. This used to be the favorite room for various reasons. Probably because the audio guy actually had an Artemis that he could work on. But everybody's in the same room. So that makes it a little more difficult for the audio. It's not impossible. I don't mind it. But there's a lot going on there. Graphics is to the left. Our replay is out in another room. But all the front bench production is all in front of the audio person.
Right. Next slide. I have no idea what I'm looking at. And again, we have names. Who's Mike and Yogi?
So, well, I wanted to point this out. It was nice to be able to, when we make network connections on the 2.0 version, that all we had to do was say, what school were you at?
Right.
It's a one-click, one connection button. It would actually tell you if the remote was available.
Right.
So yes, I'm available, hit the connection. The faders, in our case, show up as a remote fader on the B level, and the actual SDI MADI streamed audio on the A layer. And they're tied together. You open one, it opens the other. And Mike and Yogi are a couple of our hosts.
Okay.
But you can see it's at USC.
Right. There we go. There it is. There's a mess right there. I'd love to be an A2 connecting that.
Yeah, I mean, this is what the real world looks like. It's not always pretty. They try to keep it organized. This is our women's basketball tournament from Las Vegas. All the Harley Quinn, Hank, and Bobby all sat under the expando of a mirror truck.
Right.
We have the comms that are in Harley Quinn that are a 4-wire, so that interface directly to the truck. We could create a true interrupt, non-interrupt
Right.
with using the truck. And all the transmission was handled through Harley Quinn with our embeds and our D-embeds.
Right.
It also included the legacy DSP kind of as a backup.
Right. Next slide. Another control room, but you got enough speakers, you think? What do you think?
Well, they go to 11.
Okay, that's important.
So
Explain, yeah, tell me what this is.
in 90% of our multicam shows are Olympic sports.
Right.
They don't have as much in the show, but we use the Summa consoles primarily for that. The most interesting thing about this picture is that in the upper left-hand corner, you see a monitor that has our DSP control.
Right.
So that's where all the head-end gain is controlled remotely. It also will generate tone on the far end. So even before any of the A2s are set up, the A1 can come in and he can verify that all the transmission path is good from the DSP all the way to program. He doesn't need anybody to test that for him.
Right.
So our guys are trained to come in, make the connections, make those tone tests, and they can say, okay, now I'm good with that. Now we'll see what happens in the field. And it's very efficient.
Right.
I think we've cut down time-wise even, where we don't have to call people in as early.
Oh, that's
so
great.
it saves us a little money.
Cool. Okay, that was fun. Let's get out of the weeds. Maybe we can answer some questions. Anybody have any questions?
It's easy.
I guess not. All right, thank you very much.